Explain like I'm 5. What is entropy? You know how your earphones seem to get tangled a lot? It's all about statistics. Your earphones have more ways to be tangled than untangled. Therefore, they will more often than not become tangled. Why is that special? Because it shows a one-way tendency. A natural push from one state to another. That's entropy. Entropy is a measure of the number of ways in which a system can exist. The most intuitive example to me is a solid versus a gas. In a solid, the molecules or atoms are held rigidly in place with little ability to move around. In a gas, the molecules or atoms can freely fly around in space and can move all over the place. So the gas has more entropy because the molecules that make up that gas can exist in space in more ways by moving around freely. Admittedly, this isn't the best explain like I'm 5 explanation. But I hope it helps. I've always thought about it as process irreversibility. Things don't naturally get more ordered over time. For example, think about a desk that you work at. If that desk starts clean and orderly, it will inherently become disordered over time. Unless you take a specific action to clean it. I hope that helps a little. Entropy is a very abstract concept. But at the end of the day, it's just a mathematical concept that shows processes cannot be fully reversed. You know how when you drop a flower vase and it breaks? And if you drop the big pieces, they break. But if you pick it all up and drop it, it never turns back into a vase. That's entropy. The universal desire for things to become more and more unorganized. Roughly speaking, entropy is the amount of information required to describe a system. For example, take a system of 10 coins, numbered 1 to 10. If the coins are showing all heads, you can simply say "10H" to describe the system. That's 3 characters. Change the 5th coin to show tails. Now your description of the system will be "4H1T5H", requiring 6 characters. If the distribution of the coins is completely random, only way for you to describe it is to write it out in full, requiring 10 characters. The last case has the most entropy. The first case the least. A good way to describe entropy is with dice. If you have a pair of 6-sided dice, there is only one way you can get a sum of 2 by rolling a 1 on each die. Conversely, there are 35 ways to not roll a 2. Entropy is the ability for a pair of dice to roll any number available to it, in contrast to its ability to roll a select number. Imagine you're playing the lottery, where you say pick 10 out of 100 numbers, and correspondingly 10 numbers get pulled. Entropy is the number of outcomes that are compatible with a specific criteria, e.g. all numbers pulled so far are among those you previously picked. If you could sell your lottery ticket during pulls, the value of your ticket will be linked to the entropy. Many of the analogies people provide are misleading. The example of cleaning a room requires input energy to get it to an organized state. However, you could spend the same amount of energy to trash a room. What we as humans consider organized or not is completely arbitrary as far as the universe is concerned. Entropy is inversely related to the energy in a system. High entropy therefore means low energy. Low energy equals low heat. As the universe moves toward increasing entropy, it will eventually suffer a heat death, meaning no heat will exist. A coin flip has 2 outcomes. It has 1 bit of entropy. As the result can go one of 2 ways. Spaghetti on a plate though. Badzillion ways for it to sit there. Such a system has much higher entropy. Entropy is our measure of our level of uncertainty of the state of a system that arises from our inability to discern the microscopic state, particularly the position and momentum. If both of these were known for each particle, there would be no uncertainty given that the trajectory would be known and therefore deterministic. In a simulation of atoms e.g. MD, there is no entropy. The entire state of the system is known. Humans are just bad at knowing the microscopic state and formulated ideas based upon that. Let's see if I can explain like I'm 5 it. Entropy is a word that describes the process of going from order to chaos. Example: you have 2 cups of water. One has blue dye in it. The other has red dye in it. You pour them into a third cup and it makes purple. Now it's easy to take red and blue and make purple. But virtually impossible to reverse that action by separating the purple water back into separate red and blue cups of water. To a 5-yo, I'd say, it's what makes everything fall apart and become disordered as time goes on. Entropy measures the video quality of a television. The higher the definition, the lower the entropy. 4K low entropy. SD mid entropy. Barely visible midnight cable movies in the 90s high entropy. You know the random bullshit go meme. It's basically that. Entropy is the measure of randomness of the system. Steam has more entropy than a block of ice because steam is a gas. And ice is a solid. Pretend your freshly built Lego castle is the universe. Then I kick it until it breaks into its component parts. Entropy. Imagine you're in a room. In this room, every molecule of air is evenly spaced apart like a grid. It doesn't naturally stay this way. The particles will move and change direction and get out of order. There's that one way to be organized. But trillions upon trillions of ways it can be unorganized. So, naturally, the room will tend towards the unorganized. This tendency is called entropy. The most explain like I'm 5 explanation I've ever encountered. Entropy is another word for random. It appears as such. Apparent chaotic arrangement move state. Source: Nobel laureate physicist during a lecture last year. Randomness basically. When a system goes from ordered to disordered. It's the energy that leaks out in the form of heat, friction, radiation etc. Like how you can order every grain of sand in a sandcastle perfectly. But the wind and gravity and even solar pressure will move the grains around into a less ordered state. Entropy measures disorder. Disorder means how many ways something can exist in a given form. An intact egg is relatively low entropy. There aren't many ways to put molecules together to get an intact egg. If the egg is smashed on the floor, or digested for breakfast, or spoiled by bacteria, and so on. These are all lower entropy states. There are lots of configurations in which the egg is broken or destroyed. The universe tends towards increasing entropy. You can test this yourself. It's very easy to break an egg. It's very hard to put it back together. Actual explain like I'm 5 answer. Entropy is chaos. Universe likes order. Entropy is the difference in energy between chaos and equilibrium. There is no accurate way to explain it to a 5-yo. And most adults will come away with a flawed understanding of it. Unless they devote a fair amount of time to the topic. And then, if they're like me, they'll forget it. Destroying something takes far less energy than to build it. Burning a piece of paper takes only a match, but to turn the ash back into paper is not impossible, but energy intensive. Eventually all things will degrade so much there isn't enough of it to go around. For example, light photons. And thus there will only be darkness black holes going around in the universe.